US President-elect Donald Trump begins a ceasefire talk with Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. Trump will meet Vladimir Putin personally soon to negotiate a peaceful settlement of the war in Ukraine and an immediate ceasefire. Meanwhile, Donald Trump advises President Zelensky to abandon occupied territories of Ukraine. So what is known about the current Trump's plans to meet Vladimir Putin and negotiate a ceasefire in Ukraine, and on what kind of terms the United States will move forward with a ceasefire in Ukraine as soon as possible? US President-elect Donald Trump says that he would meet Vladimir Putin personally to negotiate a peaceful settlement of the war in Ukraine as soon as possible. His team will try to reach a ceasefire in Ukraine even before the end of this year, according to the Kit Kellogg, Trump's special envoy on Ukraine and Russia. According to Donald Trump, he will be able to end this war very soon, and he will meet with Putin and negotiate a ceasefire deal in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Financial Times reported that Donald Trump at the same time will support Ukraine. Trump will continue to sending military assistance to Ukraine despite his recent statement during the campaign trail. So according to the Financial Times, Donald Trump aides said that they will continue to support Ukraine, and this is the biggest U-turn in Donald Trump's policy since the beginning of the campaign trail on the US general election. So for many months, Donald Trump has been saying that he will abandon Ukraine, he will cut off Ukrainian support, he will stop sending aid to Ukraine, he will stop aiding Ukraine. However, according to this publication on Financial Times, Trump will do another thing. He will continue to support Ukraine. Despite his public statement, he will pursue another policy, according to the Financial Times. Also, Donald Trump will like Ukraine and Russia to reach a ceasefire in Ukraine as soon as possible. However, he will provide Ukraine with military assistance after the beginning of the peaceful negotiations, and even after both sides will reach a ceasefire deal. So even after the beginning of a ceasefire, Trump will also support Ukraine with military assistance and military hardware. And it is really important because this is a big U-turn in Trump's policy and in Trump's public rhetoric. Also, it is important to note that Kit Kellogg, Trump's special envoy on Ukraine and Russia, has a big plan on how they would like to end the war in Ukraine. So Kit Kellogg proposed Ukraine to freeze a front line to create a demilitarized zone, and in exchange of a ceasefire, Ukraine would be provided with military assistance. Also, European peacekeeping forces could be deployed to Ukraine to properly enforce a ceasefire line between Ukrainian and Russian troops on the ground. Also, this plan is being supported by Donald Trump, and today is up to President Zelensky to decide on whether he would like to move forward with the negotiations and with a frozen conflict in Ukraine. On the other hand, President Zelensky has proposed his own plan to end the war in Ukraine. He would like Ukraine to be a member of NATO. According to President Zelensky, the best way to end the war in Ukraine is to invite Ukraine to join NATO and to activate the Article 5 of NATO treaty only for those territories which are controlled by the Ukrainian government. And this plan is being supported by President Zelensky. However, let us see what will happen next and what kind of reaction we will see from President Zelensky if Donald Trump moves forward with his proposal and with his proposal on the ceasefire terms in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Spanish newspaper El País reported that Donald Trump has delivered a personal message to President Zelensky. He advised Zelensky to abandon occupied territories of Ukraine. So Trump advises President Zelensky to abandon Ukrainian occupied territories by Russia. This message has been delivered personally to President Zelensky. In exchange of this concession, Ukraine will reach and Russia can reach a ceasefire deal. However, it is important to note that Donald Trump's plan to end the war in Ukraine, according to the Kit Kellogg, does not include abandoning occupied territories. Ukraine can, for example, try to return these territories to Ukraine in the future after Putin's departure. So according to the Kit Kellogg, Ukraine can negotiate diplomatic regain this territory diplomatically after the Putin's departure from power in Russia, because Kit Kellogg is confident that as Vladimir Putin stays in power in Russia, it will be impossible for Ukraine to negotiate a peaceful diplomatic regaining of this territory to Ukraine. However, Donald Trump's team and Kit Kellogg are confident that it will be possible to at least reach a permanent ceasefire in Ukraine as soon as possible. Kit Kellogg says that Trump will be able to negotiate a ceasefire even before the end of this year. However, it is interesting how exactly Trump will be able to do so, if because his inauguration will be only after this year, after the end of this year, next year, in January 20th. So it will be interesting to see how exactly Trump will try to reach a ceasefire in Ukraine if he is still U.S. president-elect, but not as a president of the United States. However, Kit Kellogg is confident that as soon as possible, a ceasefire in Ukraine would be reached despite all the odds. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that Trump will urge and will force NATO members to spend more on the collective defense of the alliance. So Mark Rutte said that NATO will force, Donald Trump will force NATO members to spend 5% of their GDP on a defense. As we know, today NATO members have to spend at least 2% of their GDP on the NATO defense, or on the defense of their countries. However, Trump would like NATO members to spend 5% of their GDPs, and this is really bad news, the most horrible news ever for Russian dictator Vladimir Putin, because he would like to see NATO weaker rather than it is now. So if NATO members spend more on their defense, they will become even more stronger, and that's why this is really bad news for Russian dictator Vladimir Putin, who would like to invade NATO member, who would like to attack NATO member in the future and NATO members in the future. Also, it is important to know that many sabotage attacks were launched by Russia inside the NATO members countries, so there are some plans by Russia to attack NATO members and to reach the city of Kaliningrad in the heart of Europe. So it's really bad news for Russian dictator Vladimir Putin and for his allies. And in the end of our conversation, we will cover the role of Elon Musk in the influence of Donald Trump in his cabinet, and the role of Elon Musk and his influence of the US congressmen. So according to the Newsweek newspaper, Elon Musk is becoming more influential in the US politics because recently he has successfully undermined the recent spending bill, which has been already negotiated between Democrats and Republicans. Elon Musk even could overwhelm Donald Trump. There are some concerns. However, Trump said that Elon Musk will not be able to become the next US president because he was not born in the United States. However, there are real concerns that Elon Musk is trying to play a bigger role and is trying to get even more influence rather than Trump has right now to influence the US politics, because through his post on the social media he tries to undermine the Republican Party's position, because despite the negotiated deal between Democrats and Republicans on the government spending bill, Elon Musk has successfully undermined these efforts and convinced Republicans not to support this bill, and this is the biggest indication that the influence of Elon Musk has been growing. And even Donald Trump, this is a big question on whether Donald Trump is able to control Elon Musk, to put his between the lines to control him and not try and to prevent Elon Musk to overwhelm his policy and his public statement and try to even, it is a big question if Donald Trump is able to try to prevent Elon Musk from overwhelming his public posture, public position in the US public, and to overwhelm his policy and his public reputation. That's all for today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, stay with us on YouTube, and glory to Ukraine.